Welcome to Unholy Inquiry, where each tale leads you deeper into a labyrinth of mystery waiting to be uncovered. This time, join us as we delve into Hercule Poirot and Death Among the Peacocks, a fan-crafted story that pays homage to the genius and sophistication of Agatha Christie's iconic detective, Hercule Poirot. We are thrilled to have you with us on this captivating journey. Share your thoughts, let us know where you're tuning in from, and if you spot any details we missed, your feedback is invaluable. Together, let's continue to shape even more thrilling enigmas. Chapter 1. The Uninvited Shadow. The drumming rain fell incessantly, a spectral prelude to the sinister events that would soon unfurl within the draped corridors of Thornhill Manor. As the clouds hung low and the fog enveloped the lush English countryside, a somber atmosphere cloaked not just the manor but the 20 guests gathered for the evening's festivities. The whispered laughter, the clink of crystal, and the tinkling of a piano drowned, momentarily, by the rebuking thunder outside. In the drawing-room, the air was heavy, with rich aromas from the lavish banquet prepared by the cook, Mrs. Withers, while the flames crackled and fumed in the grand fireplace. The staccato rhythm of soft conversation and laughter ebbed as a figure emerged from the swirling fog, the front door creaking ominously upon her entrance. It was Lady Cordelia, a name accompanied by intrigue and uncertainty within these walls, known to some, but considered an enigma by many. The evening's gaiety shifted palpably as her presence captured the curiosity of all. Miss Marianne Riverton, the manor's hostess and a close friend to the late Sir William Thornhill, cocked an eyebrow at the unexpected intrusion. "Lady Cordelia, you are a most unannounced shadow in our little soirée," she remarked, brushing errant curls behind her ear, exhibiting a facade of hospitality despite a prick of unease. Lady Cordelia smiled enigmatically, her eyes glistening like the damp pebbles scattered on the road outside. "Perhaps I found myself drawn, like a moth to a flame, to this repository of memories and delightful company." The sentiment, laced with an undertone of disquiet, hung in the air as she surveyed the participants, her gaze lingering unnaturally long on Jonathan Rook, Sir William's childhood friend turned rival. As dark clouds rumbled above, the evening took a sharp turn for the worse. A shrill scream ripped through the manor, silencing the gathering into horrified stillness. It was Ellen, the maid, her face pallid, proclaiming that she had discovered the body of Sir William in his locked study, an untraceable dagger firmly embedded in his chest. Shock swiftly turned to chaos as the guests flurried toward the scene, curiosity lingering over dread. When Hercule Poirot arrived moments later, summoned hastily from his modest abode in the nearby village, he found the manor draped not only in shadows, but enveloped in disarray. The storm outside mirrored the turbulence within. He stepped with precision across the threshold, into the study, adjusting his bowler hat and brushing raindrops from his coat with measured care. The room was ornate, but the revelry had been shattered. Sir William lay sprawled over his grand oak desk. An aura of finality cloaked him. The dagger, ornate with a jade hilt, appearing both foreign and vengeful. "Mon ami, what is the significance of this crime scene?" Poirot murmured, his voice a blend of concern and gravity as he observed the immediate surroundings. He noted the locked door, a sign of no forced entry. This was a case wrapped in intimate betrayal. He cast a sidelong glance at Jonathan Rook, who stood athwart the threshold, sweating profusely despite the autumn chill. "What do you mean by this, Poirot?" Rook stammered. He was my friend. He would not, could not have. His protest tumbled into incoherence, punctuated by fearful glances among the guests, who now crowded the hall, peering suspiciously like crows, eyeing breadcrumbs. "Calm yourself, my friend," Poirot urged as he knelt beside the body. He examined the dagger, its craftsmanship suggesting the mark of sophistication. Another layer of intrigue. To what purpose would one be murdered in this most theatrical of gatherings? The guests wear masks of civility, but each holds shadows behind their gaze. Miss Riverton, clutching her pearls, inhaled sharply, which drew the attention Poirot sought. He was a man of his time, full of secrets. But who would dare? She faltered, her voice barely a whisper, yet heavy with implication. Poirot's demeanor sharpened. Her expression was a tapestry of emotions, a blend of grief, surprise, and perhaps relief. "Indeed, madame, it is the secrets that we keep, the web of our connections, that which shall guide us to the truth," Poirot remarked, his mind a whirring machination as he assessed each guest in the room. Eager ears strained to capture the beginnings of insight. "We must understand not merely what arises, but who it serves." Lady Cordelia spoke next, her voice a melodic ripple against the majestic walls. Sir William had many foes, though none more deep-rooted than his own failures. The dagger, what a symbol it presents. The very thing he adored now lays him low. She had an unsettling way of intertwining disdain with attraction. Poirot released an astute nod, for her reaction seemed rehearsed, fabricated, a hint of melody beckoning, dissonance. Yet the shadows of their history loomed larger and more discomforting than the weather outside. Poirot's eyes flitted between the items scattered atop the desk. Partly finished correspondence, a creased page with hastily scrawled notes, a conspicuous absence of personal effects, each an indication that spoke volumes. Ah, this study, it carries discontent sewn within its walls, does it not? Then a creaking sound interrupted the heavy air as Mrs. Withers entered, her apron stained, hands trembling. I found something, Mr. Poirot," she stammered, fearing the consequences of her intrusion. With the guests watching intently, she revealed a loose sheet of paper from behind her apron, its edges burnt, as though it had been discarded carelessly in the fire. Poirot's heart quickened with the allure of intrigue as he grasped the fragile note. "What do we have here? Evidence from the fingerprints of chaos? Show me, madame." The storm outside escalated, blurring the illumination of the manor, yet within, Poirot felt the threads of fate intertwining closer. He held the sheet aloft, letters illuminated momentarily as lightning struck nearby, the rhythm of daylight and darkness interlaced as the revelation loomed closer. The message was cryptic, an accusation yet to be unveiled, with only the echo of one name stamped beneath: Lady Cordelia. His brow furrowed in concentration as he inhaled sharply, each clue beckoning toward dreadful revelations. He turned his piercing gaze toward Cordelia, with an expression that could crack the earth beneath her, questioning every nuance of her chilling poise. The true storm had only begun, and as Poirot's mind raced, he felt it, the heavy weight of the untraceable dagger upon his conscience. The churning fog outside mirrored the shrouded intentions of those within, leaving them unknowing of how deeply they would be entwined in the tangled mystery of Thornhill Manor. And as the rain lashed against the windows, it was clear. Death had thrown its chilling shadow over the night. Chapter 2. A Letter Too Late. The unrelenting rain continued to pound against the window panes of Thornhill Manor, a relentless symphony that echoed the turmoil within its walls. The storm had become a fitting backdrop to the burgeoning chaos following Sir William's untimely demise. Inside the drawing room, the atmosphere was thick with tension. A palpable mixture of shock and stimulated curiosity enveloped the guests who had only hours ago been enjoying the comforts of lavish indulgence. The flickering candlelight cast long shadows across their faces, sculpting an eerie tableau. Poirot stood firm amidst the confusion, his sharp gaze flitting over the assembled group. He could sense the undercurrents of fear, suspicion, and veiled animosity as he contemplated the recent discovery of the letter Mrs. Withers had produced, a scrap of paper that, though charred at the edges, contained clues that demanded scrutiny. The sudden jolt of urgency coursed through him. Time was a fragile thread that hung precariously over their collective fate. "Madame Withers," he addressed the trembling cook, who still lingered nervously at the doorway, "might you tell us when you found this letter?" I stumbled upon it just before the scream, sir," she answered hesitantly, wringing her apron as if it would alleviate the unease that clung to her. "It was tucked behind the hearth, and I almost tossed it into the fire. The edges caught my eye, burnt, but legible enough to read." "Remarkable indeed," Poirot said, carefully unfolding the fragile document, the scent of singed parchment mingling with the rich aromas of lingering dinner. He read carefully, his brow furrowed as he saw the date inscribed, strikingly recent, mere moments before the murder itself. October 15th, 1936. Miss Riverton stepped forward, her voice a whisper edged with anticipation. "What does it say, Poirot?" "The letter. It carries an urgent pleading from an unnamed author," he replied, pursuing the weight of the words as he spoke, his accent articulating each syllable with considerable gravitas. "It implies that Sir William is harboring a significant family secret, one that may lay waste to the very fabric of Thornhill Manor, threaten its legacy. The ink, although slightly smudged, reveals one damning phrase. It must be revealed, lest you perish in ignorance." "What is it, Poirot? What secret could be so catastrophic?" Jonathan Rook's voice trembled slightly, a thin veneer of bravado, masking palpable dread. "Surely it cannot be tied to a man of Sir William's standing." With a steady gaze, Poirot raised a finger as lightning illuminated the night sky. "Ah, but therein lies the essence of our dilemma. Those in power often guard their secrets more zealously for fear of vulnerability. The presence of this letter suggests a deeper betrayal, one likely entrenched within the family itself." He let the words hang heavy in the charged atmosphere. "I invite you all to ponder. Who stands to gain from his downfall, or who has the most to lose?" The silence that followed was deafening. Discomfort walked among the guests, nerves fraying as suspicion morphed into tangible forms. Poirot turned toward Lady Cordelia, who regarded him with a mixture of ire and defiance. "What say you, Lady Cordelia? Given your clear association with Sir William, did you know of any secrets festering beneath the surface?" Her lips curled into a sardonic smile. "Oh, Poirot, I wouldn't know. Perhaps you should ask Miss Riverton." The audacity of her statement put everyone on guard. A pointed finger thrusts into the heart of the manor's hostess. Miss Riverton, visibly perturbed, drew herself up with a haughty stance. "I have known Sir William for years. If anything, I protected him. This idyllic estate was my life's work. Surely I have no reason to want him dead." Her voice pitched higher, echoing the fear that had begun to swirl in the room like smoke. Ah, but fear creates unexpected alliances, Poirot interjected, his demeanor as impenetrable as a granite wall. Desire can morph into resentment, and the least expected can reveal themselves as the most culpable. He approached the desk, where the letter lay, inspecting it once more, the faint traces of ink, revealing deeper truths. The writer's intent disguises intent. Perhaps the one who penned this is closer than you wish to believe. Suddenly, a loud crack of thunder reverberated, causing all to flinch, their eyes darting to the windows. It was then that Poirot noticed the peculiar detail. The ink upon the page appeared notably more vibrant against the storm's pervasive shadows. An interesting contrast, he continued, ensnared in his analysis. This letter, this narrative of secrets, it beckons us to inquire. Could it be possible that Sir William intended to reveal this family truth tonight? Poirot's mind raced. A cacophony of possibilities danced in his thoughts as he pondered the intricacies of the family's past. As murmurs ricocheted around the room, curiosity mounted, intertwining with suspicion and growing dread. Lady Cordelia sighed heavily, her composure faltering for an instant. What family secret could be more pivotal than the fortune we've inherited? Ah, that's precisely my consideration, madame. Poirot nodded decisively. For wealth is often inherited, but it is the secrets of the heart. Those are what stranglehold us. Perhaps we should seek the nature of this family's legacy. Enough of this shadowy discourse, Jonathan Rook's voice cracked. Are we to stand here, floundering in accusation and uncertainty? What if the murderer lurks amongst us? Poirot straightened, his eyes sharp like a hawk's. No one stands before the gavel of accusation without first presenting the evidence. However, he stressed with intensified fervor, we are running against time, and therein lies our predicament. The truth, I assure you, is just out of reach, waiting to reveal itself through the wisps of fog. Before he could elaborate further, there was a commotion in the hallway as Ellen, visibly shaken, hurried into the room. Excuse me, sirs and madams, she implored, holding a bundle of letters like a trembling offering. I stumbled upon these. They were hidden away in the upstairs attic. The guests all froze, eyes darting between Poirot and the maid, who was trembling more than before. They seemed to be Sir William's personal correspondences. Poirot stepped closer, the thrill of intrigue coursing through his veins at the prospect of new revelations. And did you ascertain their purpose, mademoiselle? She swallowed heavily, but nodded resolutely. I did, sir. They speak of a distant relative, a relative who bears a name that haunts the whispers of our estate. A tension, thick and suffocating, prevailed as Poirot reached out to grasp the letters. Time coiled tighter around them, and with it, the threads of destiny pulled inexorably toward resolution. Just as he began to peruse the topmost letter, the lights flickered ominously, and the entire manor plunged into darkness. Gasps rose like thunder in the enveloping night as Poirot felt his own heart quicken, realizing that whatever truth was about to be revealed would plunge deeper into shadows than they had yet traversed. Cher ami, he breathed through the darkness, his mind racing. We are at the precipice of revelation. The secrets we seek may yet unravel this weary evening. As the prevailing quiet stretched, mingling with the distant rumble of thunder, it became evident that they were not merely betwixt life and death, but ensnared in a labyrinth of revelations that demanded unraveling. And as the candles flickered back to life, illuminating the frightened faces, poised for an inevitable unmasking, It was clear that a wind of change had begun to howl through the hearts of the residents of Thornhill Manor. The true storm had arrived, with secrets swirling around them like a maelstrom, each breath poised to expose the hidden betrayals lurking just beneath the surface. The letters crumbled almost tantalizingly, one unwilling to divulge what consumed them more than the haunting words of the unwritten past that whispered promises of doom. Through it all, only two truths remained. A life had been extinguished, and they needed answers. Before the dawn broke again, upon the estate they held dear and draped them in sorrow, as darkness became less isolating and instead drew them all together. And Poirot, keen as ever, recognized that those who unearth buried truths often must tread carefully. Though they risk banners waving before the storm, truths can also hide keenly in the crevices, waiting for the vulnerable moment to arise, emerging triumphant from the candlelight. The night beneath storm and shadows had only just begun to reveal its clandestine depths, and with it, the sordid sense of danger seemed poised to unfurl once and for all. Chapter 3. Alibis in the Mist. A sharp blast of wind rattled the window panes of Thornhill Manor, the storm now a furious crescendo. The room, dimly lit by flickering candles, held its breath as Lady Cordelia stood rigid, her gaze darting toward the shadows creeping closer in the periphery. Poirot, steeped in anticipation, rose from his chair, every inch of his being attuned to the unsettling shift that cloaked the room. He was acutely aware of the tension, the pervading suspicion that had settled like dust upon the estate's opulent furnishings, and he could sense that the wall of secrets was on the verge of crumbling. "Ladies and gentlemen," Poirot's voice rang out, calm yet commanding. "I understand that the last few hours have been unsettling, wrought with dread and misgiving. However, I urge you to remember that within chaos lies the thread of truth." As he surveyed the cast of characters before him, he noted how their respective alibis began to unravel like old, neglected tapestries. Each face reflected the inner turmoil of individuals who harbored dark motives behind their well-cultivated facades. An uneasy silence settled over the assembly, broken only by the wailing gusts outside. It was Jonathan Rook who spoke first, his voice emboldened by a hint of indignation. "What good is truth that comes cloaked in shadows? We are caught in this tempest, Poirot. We need clarity and answers, not riddles." His brow glistened with anxiety, a man facing his shadow as much as the storm. Poirot's gaze drifted toward Lady Cordelia, who seemed eerily composed, perhaps too composed for the pall of death that hung over them all. "Ah, but Monsieur Rook, it is often in the masking that we find our greatest revelations." He approached Lady Cordelia, his visage scrutinizing. "You, my dear lady, have stood close to Sir William. Are there not whispers that linger in your heart, secrets that tie you to the fate of this estate?" A flicker of something, a momentary panic, passed across her face, but it quickly settled into her familiar, sardonic smile. "I am merely a steward of Thornhill. If Sir William held secrets, it was not for me to unveil." Her words dripped with self-defense, but Poirot detected the tremor beneath. "Then perhaps you can assist us with a conundrum, ma chérie," Poirot began, intrigued. "During my observations, I noticed that a vital piece of jewelry is missing, or has gone unaccounted for." As he spoke, he revealed the glint of a broken clasp that had been left at the last dinner table. A golden brooch with a sapphire, a rare and distinguishable piece, It belonged to Sir William, did it not? Gasps swirled around the room. The atmosphere thickened as suspicion coalesced. Lady Cordelia's smile slipped, revealing an edge of agitation. What does that have to do with the murder of Sir William? Poirot rested his hands behind his back, a picture of tranquil inquiry. You see, madame, jewelry often becomes much more than its physical value. It can represent power, affection, connections. Who among us would want this piece to vanish? Who would benefit? Miss Riverton interjected, her voice sharp with conviction. I have no time for these fanciful notions. My allegiance was to the estate. I would never betray Sir William. Perhaps the brooch was misplaced during the commotion. Or perhaps it was never misplaced at all, but removed with intent. Poirot replied smoothly, his eyes gleaming like polished stones. Let us not forget that secrets flourish in the shadows, and as they cast their length, they help us to discern those who would benefit from our dear Sir William's early departure. A hush fell over the room, beneath the looming presence of implications. Poirot could see the thread of vulnerability weaving between the guests. The storm outside became more than just a tempest, embodying the inner turmoil that churned within each of them. Think, who among you would dare to tear this family apart? Poirot's voice pierced the collective veil of tension. Anna, the maid, stumbled upon letters linking Sir William to an estranged relative. That relative, it bears significance. Could it be that you all share a connection deeper than mere association? Nervous glances passed amongst the guests, betrayal glimmering like sharpened knives. Lady Cordelia twitched, her pulse quickening as she exchanged uneasy looks with Jonathan. And what of you, Jonathan? You seem particularly restless. What burdens do you hide beneath that bravado? Enough of this, Jonathan shouted, slamming his palm against the table. My name is not the one to be dragged through the mud. If I am to defend myself, then let us expose the truths buried within each of your hearts. Did not Sir William rely on the connections we forged over the years? An air of defiance hung over the room as accusations began to weave like snakes, slithering towards their intended targets. As Poirot analyzed the interplay, he found an interesting pattern emerging. Grudges, entitlements, rivalries were like pieces on a chessboard, moving with increasing urgency. Lady Cordelia's voice edged with venom. You would disregard your own exploitation in this, Jonathan. Do you not think Sir William found the games we played consumptive? You sought his inheritance. Would you not be the most willing to see him gone? A collective gasp reverberated through the drawing room, the air crackling with revelation before it was severed by the sudden darkness that swallowed them once more. The candles flickered violently as a shroud fell over Thornhill Manor, amplifying the whispers of dissent that seeped through the walls. It appears that the night has conspired against us, my friends, Poirot mused thoughtfully, illuminating his expression with the sparking flame of deduction. Every shared secret, every longing and resentment held weights upon your souls. Every alibi woven becomes frail within the fog. In the hushed silence, Poirot's penetrating gaze rested upon a corner of the room, where he had observed the barest shifting of shadows, a subtle flick of fabric amidst the tense exchange. And perhaps, just perhaps, it is more than a missing brooch that ties this web together. As if the storm was orchestrated to assist in his quest for truth, a rumble of thunder punctuated his statement. Poirot could feel the tension in the air, a palpable energy culminating towards an inevitable unveiling. We stand upon the crumbling precipice of revelation. Perhaps all it shall take is one person to tip the balance. At that moment, a sharp, distinct cry broke the silence from the upstairs hallway, a sound that echoed with desperation. Poirot, drawn like an arrow to its target, dashed toward the source, the others scrambling behind in a tumultuous pursuit. As he reached the door, a sudden crash reverberated from within, a pivotal moment of revelation brewing. The darkened corridor seemed to expand, shadows deepening as Poirot placed a steadying hand against the door, ready to unearth what lay within. With a swift motion, he turned the knob, thrusting open the door as a malignant gust of wind seemed to pour into the room alongside him. What awaited him beyond was unclear, obscured by the fissures of betrayal and darkness that encircled their fragile alliances. The candle flames flickered, daring him to step further as the squall outside thrashed violently, heralding a truth that awaited revelation at the heart of Thornhill Manor. In that moment, Poirot's intuition crystallized and began to envelop him in a heady vehemence. What lay ahead would unravel both alibis and destinies before this thunderous night could see the dawn. Chapter 4. The Will That Was Never Signed. The wind shrieked through the creaking rafters of Thornhill Manor as Poirot paused on the threshold, heart pounding in concert with the tempest outside. Before him lay a scene of chaos, a figure sprawled on the floor, the dimmed light of a nearby candle flickering against the pallid skin. It was Anna, the maid, her face a mask of terror, as she whispered fragmented words that seemed to get lost amidst the raging elements. Sir William, the will. It was never signed. Poirot's mind, ever a tapestry of deductions, flicked into gear. The missing will, a whispered ghost of property and fortunes, now lay sprawled before them, seen only through the frightened eyes of a girl caught in circumstances beyond her control. He knelt beside Anna, the lightning illuminating the room through the nearby window. "Calm yourself, ma sœur," he urged softly, his voice a tranquil balm amidst the storm's clamor. "What do you mean? Where is this will? What do you know of it?" Her eyes darted to the shadows, fear evident in her tone. I heard Sir William speaking to Lady Cordelia late last night. They were arguing about the inheritance, about something he had planned, something that could change everything. Poirot's sharp mind gleaned every detail, latching onto the fear that played under her words like a score beneath a symphony. The will, Anna, was it incomplete or hidden? The former, she confessed, her voice trembling. He intended for it to be signed today, but a look of realization crossed her face, her gaze sharp with a mixture of hope and dread. But if it wasn't completed, what if it was a lie? What if he meant to keep something from the others? Poirot's heart raced at the whispers of betrayal entangled with greed. The other residents of Thornhill were as much a part of this drama as Sir William had been. Rising to his feet, Poirot glanced back toward the doorway, where the shadows of Lady Cordelia and Jonathan loomed. "Gather everyone in the drawing room," he instructed, moving with purpose. "We are about to unravel this dark tapestry further." The storm continued its tumultuous song as the guests shuffled into the room, their expressions worn with anxiety and uncertainty. Poirot stood at the center, his arms crossed, with Anna clinging to her secret like a lifeline. "My friends," he addressed, the flickering candlelight casting ominous shadows across the grandeur of the manor. "It appears we stand upon a precipice of extraordinary implications. The will, it seems, may hold revelations that none among us have foreseen." A palpable tension filled the air as Poirot, locked eyes with each member of the gathering. It is most vital that we uncover the whereabouts of this document. The storm has opened doors for discussion, has it not? Allow me to ask you all, what did Sir William intend? What dark dealings could have led to such distress? Lady Cordelia, her composure seemingly moulded by desperation, stepped forward. And who among us could have wished for the conclusion of such a discussion to be death? A will, unsigned? The cynicism in her voice was like a sharpened blade, glimmering in the candlelight. What foolish charade do you propose, Poirot? Foolishness hides itself in shadows, madame. It is within light that we may reveal the truth, Poirot countered, completely unfazed by her challenge. He noted the slight twitches in Jonathan's posture, the clenched jaw of Missy Riverton, the mounting apprehension reflected on every face. Tell me, who has witnessed anything that could shed light on Sir William's character? Any interaction that seemed unusual? Jonathan, unable to contain himself, spoke up, agitation spilling over. This is absurd. We are discussing a man who, let us not forget, was a tyrant among us. If there was a will, then it should be found among us. If he had written anything of significance, it was surely in his own handwriting. Ah, but that is where you are mistaken, Monsieur Rook, Poirot remarked, his eyes narrowing. A signature grants literal value to a document, and yet words can linger, even in the absence of ink, upon a page. What were his last instructions to you all? Perhaps there were omens he wished to convey through letters, deliberate communication, across paths intertwined. He was consumed by ghosts of the past, Miss Riverton snapped, her temper flaring. The truth is, there was much he kept from us. A will unsent could reveal shadows, not just to us, but others who had more right to it than you or I. Poirot watched the rising tempers, the desperation rolling like the storm outside. The vulnerabilities they wore openly became increasingly transparent. Greed dripped like venom in the air, linking them further together. Then let us seek this will, my dear friends, Poirot announced, determination igniting in his voice. If it exists, it may very well contain the truth behind our dear Sir William's demise. We cannot let the night rob us of this chance. Outside, the thunder echoed, rattling against the very foundations of their unsteady alliances as they began to stir uneasily. Every corner of the manor whispered secrets and deceit. Everything hinged now upon the fading light, upon the fragile strands of loyalties being bent to breaking. The storm, a mere backdrop to the chaos brewing amongst them. Anna, he asked, turning back to the maid, where do you think Sir William would have hidden such a precious document? She hesitated, glancing toward the shadowed corner by the fireplace, where the glow of the single, flickering candle hardly reached. He had mentioned keeping it close, near where he would feel safe, perhaps beneath the floorboards. Poirot's eyes gleamed as the pieces began to align. Would you be willing to show me? He inquired, a sense of urgency now gripping him. A nod from Anna sent them darting toward the fireplace. The grim determination settled in their ranks as they bent low, poised to dig through the shadows beneath the floor. A new bolt of lightning illuminated the room, revealing something that made Poirot's breath catch in his throat. A hinged wooden box whose presence had been long forgotten. As he lifted it, thunder exploded around them, washing over the group like an unending tide of chaos. Yet what awaited them beneath that mighty storm was equally as treacherous. The final curtain was lifting on a stage set for devastation, and it was not merely the will, but the lives dependent on the storm's articulation. with shadows shifting like figures in a fever dream. Poirot sensed that their fates now teetered on the edge as he prepared to unlock what lay beneath and expose the buried secrets concealed by a night that would yield only truth at a most profound cost. Chapter 5. The Vanishing Act. The storm was a living entity as it roared against the ancient walls of Thornhill Manor, a cacophony of thunder and rain that drummed a sinister rhythm. Amidst the narrative of dread, stirred by unearthed secrets, one breathless moment reshaped the course of their evening. Poirot had barely balanced the wooden box he had discovered when a sudden chilling scream echoed through the grand corridor, slicing through the deafening sound of the storm like a knife. It was Lady Cordelia's voice, fractured with terror, that drew Poirot's focus from the spectral box. The flickering of the candles cast eerie shadows across the room as Poirot and the others darted toward the source of the scream. The drawing room lay in tumult, where Lady Cordelia had just stood, a pale spectre amidst the chaos, only to find that she was now gone, vanished like smoke in the tempest. Panic seized the space, rippling through the remaining guests, and Poirot felt a thrill of urgency rush through his veins. "Where is she?" Jonathan barked, his face pale as he gripped the edge of a table, panic palpable within his raised brow. Miss Riverton's voice wavered as she stammered, trying to make sense of the scene. She just disappeared. One moment she was here, and the next— "Stop," Poirot commanded with an intensity that quieted them. "I need everyone to remain calm. Lady Cordelia has not departed without a trace. There must be some clue." He turned his gaze toward the doorway, now heavy with shadows. What do we know of her last actions? A breathless silence hung heavy, broken only by the rustling of rain against the window as Poirot's mind raced. Lady Cordelia was not simply an agitated figure. She was a vital thread in the intricate web of their puzzle. Think. Count the steps she may have taken. Where might she have gone? "She frequented the library," Anna suggested, her voice trembling slightly. "She often hid away in there. It was her sanctuary." "Then we must hurry," Poirot urged, gesturing for the group to follow. As they swept down the hallway, Poirot's mind whirled with fragmented memories of Lady Cordelia's previous interactions, a tapestry of emotions revealing itself. Her tone, her silences, and the veils of secrecy that draped over her like a cloak. They reached the door to the library, the heavy wood seeming to hum under the weight of anticipation. Poirot flung it open, a rush of air striking them as he squinted into the dim light. But the room was empty, the wooden shelves lined with tomes casting sinister shadows. The only sound was the relentless torrent of rain outside, reminding him how insidious the night had become. "Search the room," Poirot commanded, a note of urgency creeping into his voice. They spread out, their movements quick and restless as they combed every corner. His eye was drawn to a set of heavy curtains, billowing slightly as if a draught had snuck through the window. Torn between curiosity and sudden dread, Poirot approached them cautiously. Yet, just then, Anna's gasp caught his attention. She stood near the fireplace, her eyes wide with apprehension. "There," she pointed, trembling. Poirot turned toward the hearth, noticing a small, ornate mirror lying slightly ajar on the floor, exposed and glimmering like a dark secret yet to be revealed. He bent down to examine it, noting its craftsmanship. "A family heirloom?" he inquired, seeing a glimmer of recognition pass over Jonathan's face. "It belonged to her mother, Lady Agnes," he murmured, though Poirot could sense Jonathan's thoughts spiraling in anxiety, as if the past itself were haunting him. It was said to reveal the truth, a family possession steeped in folk tales. But it is merely a mirror, Poirot pointed out, his brow furrowing at the enigmatic turn of events. Behind him, Miss Riverton muttered, "Why would Cordelia leave a family memento in such a hurry?" Rising to his feet, Poirot turned the piece over. At its backside, he noticed a series of faint scratches, like symbols etched into the wooden frame. Ah, this is not just a mere mirror, but perhaps a means of communication, or something more sinister. More sinister, Jonathan echoed, brow furrowing, his gaze flitting from the mirror to Poirot. How do you mean? There may be a message concealed, something left intentionally, a note, or perhaps directions. Poirot was already tracing a pattern with his fingers, taking in the topography of the scratches. It is a puzzle unto itself. We must investigate further. But as they focused on the mirror, the storm outside surged with renewed ferocity, sheet lightning illuminating the facade of the manor, casting flickering shadows that seemed to dance around them. "Poirot!" Anna cried, darting toward the library entrance, her face a mask of horror. "What if Lady Cordelia? What if she is in danger?" A sudden noise, the squeak of a door, a faint rap on the wooden floor, the sound shattered the momentary focus and sent all eyes darting towards the corridor. From the shadows emerged a stooped figure, drenched and trembling, lips quivering as she stepped forward. But the relief that washed over Poirot was followed swiftly by a sense of foul foreboding. As the figure emerged into the dim light, the fluttering heartbeat of realization gripped his heart. It was not Lady Cordelia, but a spectre of someone they had previously thought just a part of the night's unfolding tale. "Lady Cordelia," he murmured, recognition dawning on him as his mind raced, piecing together the fragments of her past. The implications of her connections began to unravel beneath the surface, as if a shroud was being stripped away. "Il ne peut pas," Jonathan's voice faltered, eyes flicking towards Poirot, betrayal and fear festering within. Could it be? Piercing with clarity, Poirot understood all too well that the past, shrouded in the dense fog of scandal, now enveloped them as the tumult outside merged with the chaos within. Lady Cordelia's sudden disappearance was no accident. It was a calculated game, and the stakes were higher than they had ever anticipated. "Ladies and gentlemen," Poirot declared, his voice steely amidst the storm's howl, "this evening's events are but a prelude. We are not merely piecing together a will, but uncovering a vanishing act, a disappearance meant to distract us from a truth even darker. And I sense that the night still holds its secrets, and they wish to remain buried." With the storm roaring in defiance outside, Poirot realized that the answers lay entwined in Lady Cordelia's past, a pulse beat that threatened to echo in the darkness of a manor that breathed secrets. The game was afoot, and Lady Cordelia's fate had only begun to unspool, lurking behind every shadow, every whispered allegation, a truth fatal as it was inevitable, as he prepared to confront not just the legacy of a man, but the motivations that could lead to murder. Most foul. Chapter 6. Whispers in the Library. A blinding flash of lightning illuminated the library's darkened corners, casting frantic shadows that danced upon the wooden shelves. The air was thick with tension, blending the musty scent of ancient books with the electric charge of the storm outside. Hercule Poirot stood amidst the remnants of chaos, a breath suspended in time, as he eyed the ornate mirror Anna had unearthed. Its reflections shimmered with secrets, but it was not the only mystery that lay hidden in the library's depths. Gather around, mes amis. We have more than merely the echoes of this storm to contend with, Poirot declared, his voice steadier than his racing thoughts. The urgency of the night pressed on his shoulders like the weight of the downpour battering the manor outside. He turned from the mirror to the nearby console table, where a fine dust hung like a veil over its surface. Our dear Lady Cordelia has left us but breadcrumbs. We must gather them before the rain washes them away. Miss Riverton, her eyes wide with apprehension, moved to join him. What do you mean, Poirot? You think she has left something else here? This room is so full of tales, don't you feel? Poirot leaned closer to the table, brushing away the dust and revealing an uneven edge, its grain suggesting a potential inaccessibility. There was an air of expectancy. The library had always been a sanctuary of Lady Cordelia's, a refuge filled with stories of the past. But was it also a mausoleum of dark secrets? Ah, my dear Miss Riverton, every place has its shadows. We must not ignore what this sanctuary could be hiding. Just then, Anna, who had been pacing nervously at the library's threshold, stepped forward. Might there be something behind these shelves? The manor is old, and the library is ancient. Often the most precious things are hidden within. Her timid suggestion struck a chord with Poirot. Indeed, a very astute observation, Anna. Poirot's eyes glinted as he moved towards the nearest shelf, fingertips grazing the spines of dated tomes. They were a tapestry of histories, languages, and mysteries, their aged covers whispering the names of authors long forgotten. He began to shift the volumes, testing for anything unusual. With his hand guiding the books, he pressed gently against the back of the shelf. The wood creaked ever so slightly, and as he adjusted his weight, a soft clicking sound reverberated through the air. Poirot's heart raced with anticipation. A hidden compartment? Just as the thunder rattled the windows, a glint of brass caught his eye amid the dark wood, an inconspicuous latch, cleverly concealed. Voila! We are fortunate, it seems. Poirot's voice dripped with satisfaction as he pulled the latch, revealing a narrow drawer sliding silently from its hiding place. The contents inside were a treasure trove of correspondence, letters folded neatly, their once vibrant colors dulled by time. The room fell silent as Poirot withdrew the first letter. Its edges yellowed and traced the fading script with a knowing finger. Ah, private correspondences, how they reveal the heart of the matter. He unfolded the letter, reading with care, while the storm outside roared in frustration. Each brush of the pages filled the heavy air with palpable tension. As Poirot scanned the letter's contents, a shift in the atmosphere caught his attention. He noticed Jonathan Riverton's shadow fall over him as he inched closer, an undercurrent of desperation in his voice. You think there could be something here that explains Cordelia's disappearance? She is not just missing. The moment she screamed, she was... Jonathan, my boy, do not rush, interjected Anna, maintaining a fierce grip on the agitation swirling in the room. But Poirot raised a hand delicately as though to quell the rising turmoil. Let us not drown in panic. There is method to this unfolding mystery. He continued poring over the letters, piecing together fragments of entangled lives, betrayals wrapped in romantic prose, torn secrets that twisted like the very roots of Thornhill Manor. He read aloud, "My beloved, if you engage in this charade for my sake, you know I cannot abide by it. Our lives are intertwined, yet the tapestry shows discord. You shall find the truth within the library, if secrets are what you seek. He paused, letting the weight of the words settle over the gathered group, each face painted with a mix of dread and intrigue. This is not merely personal, it is dark indeed. Who wrote that? Miss Riverton asked, a tremor in her voice. Ah, that, it seems, is but the beginning of our hunt. Poirot extracted several more letters, each revealing a more sordid reality. A navigation through deceit, disguised as affection. As he glanced at the signatures, the revelation struck him with a clarity that felt dizzying. The letters were penned in distinct, yet familiar handwriting, unmistakably belonging to Lady Cordelia and her mother, Lady Agnes, as well as another figure he had yet to connect. A family entangled, secrets festering. The more we uncover, the thicker the plot becomes. Poirot's gaze hardened as he turned solemnly toward Jonathan. Could you enlighten us? You seem to harbor a connection to these whispers. With a visible struggle, Jonathan's brow furrowed deeply. Cordelia pursued what was hidden. She was restless when it came to family history, but my own involvement, it's complicated. A singular clap of thunder interrupted, reverberating through the manor as if the skies themselves protested the unveiling of treachery. The library door creaked open abruptly, and Poirot turned sharply. A gust of wind carried the whispers of the storm, and as if to reinforce that robust spirits often lurked behind the veil of familial bonds, yet another figure appeared. It was the old caretaker, Mr. Gently, his rain-soaked silhouette framed in the doorway, a disheveled mess of dripping vegetation and distress. I come with urgency. He thrust something into Poirot's hands, panting with exertion, and the detective examined it closely. A large, damp envelope. What is this? Poirot inquired, feeling the intensity growing as he opened the envelope to reveal yet more letters, swathed in a damp, ominous embrace. Letters. I found them in the attic, Gently gasped, his eyes wild. They belonged to Sir William. They might explain everything. Poirot's heart quickened, the storm outside an echo of the tempests brewing within the hearts of those present. The pieces were falling into place, yet the picture was more convoluted than he cared to admit, swirling around in the storm's wake. As he looked up from the letters, poised to delve deeper into the chaos, the storm raged, and with it, the fate of Lady Cordelia tantalizingly dangled above them like complex threads waiting to intertwine. In that tense moment, Poirot realized the next revelation might very well unravel the very tapestry of familial ties they had begun to dissect. What had been spoken within letters written in the shadows would soon rise to confront their present, setting the stage for yet another act in an increasingly complex performance. And as the thunder rumbled ominously, Poirot contemplated the ghosts of the past. They were restless, and their whispers would not rest until the truth was laid bare. Chapter 7. Secrets Beneath the Surface. As the lightning cracked overhead, illuminating Thornhill Manor with a fleeting flash of harsh light, Hercule Poirot's thoughts churned like the tempest outside. He stood in the library, the weight of the past pressing heavily upon him, pondering the disarray of letters that hinted at dark, familial entanglements. Suddenly, something beneath the veneer of library order called out to him, an instinct urging him to delve deeper into the manor's secrets. The storm howled outside, but within the walls, a different kind of storm was brewing. Poirot stepped away from the console table, his keen eyes scanning the library's details once more. They had uncovered a treasure trove of revelations, yet he felt that the most significant truth eluded them. "Mais, qu'en est-il de cette pièce?" he murmured, gaze drawn to the oak paneling along the walls. Each shadow, each creak of wood underfoot, felt alive with potential. What if there are more layers to this room than meets the eye? Poirot? Anna hesitated, glancing toward him with concern. You look contemplative. Contemplation is merely the beginning, my dear, he replied, his chin raised slightly, determined. With a delicate precision, he traced the contours of the library's architectural features. We must explore beyond what is known. As he studied the room, his sharp gaze caught sight of an inconspicuous door set slightly ajar. It appeared to be disguised behind a dusty curtain, an oversight from generations past. He approached it, brushing his fingers along its frame, testing for any mechanism. With a gentle push, the door creaked open, revealing a stairwell spiraling downwards into darkness. Cherchez, mes amis, he beckoned the others, gesturing for them to follow. The thrill of discovery pulsated within him, mingling with the trepidation of what lay ahead. What secrets lie beneath the polished surface of Thornhill Manor? Jonathan Riverton hesitated. I don't know. Poirot, what if it leads to nothing? Then we have lost only time. Time we shall reclaim with the knowledge gained, Poirot replied, the storm's fury echoing his conviction. But if it leads to the truth of Lady Cordelia's absence, would you not risk some dissent? With a hesitant exchange of glances, Anna and Jonathan stepped deeper into the shadows beside him. The air grew stale as they descended, each step echoing within the narrow confines of the passage. The lantern light flickered, casting elongated shadows that danced over the damp stone walls. Halfway down, Poirot came to a halt, noticing something glimmering in the thin beam of their lantern. It was a brass plate, engraved and reddish with oxidation, embedded into the wall. To the gardens, visitors' exit. How cunning, Poirot mused, tracing the letters with a deft finger. A secret way to the gardens, away from the eyes of the household. Might one of these secretive meetings happen here? Meetings, Jonathan echoed, his brow furrowing deeper in concern. Just yesterday, a clandestine meeting was suggested. Our dear Lady Cordelia was drawing enigmatic connections, and it is possible this passage could have played a role, Poirot explained, piecing together the strands of potential motives woven into their narratives. His thoughts turned to Lady Agnes. Could it be, he mused aloud, his voice lowering, that Lady Cordelia was drawn beyond the misconceptions of family, seeking truths hidden from her, possibly even betrayal? Step by meticulous step, Poirot pushed on, leading the group further down the passage until they reached an ornate door adorned with ivy motifs, its heavy wooden structure yawning wide into a moonlit night garden, drenched in the fragrant perfume of rain-soaked blooms. We are not alone, Poirot barely above a whisper, indicating with a swift glance at the garden's edge. Shadows flitted like spectres between the shrubbery. The remnants of a clandestine meeting appeared before them. A whisper caught his attention, faint yet distinct. We must meet again. The will can't wait. Jonathan exhaled sharply as the reality unfolded. This was where Cordelia came to meet someone. Poirot knelt, his keen eye catching the edge of a silk handkerchief snagged on a thorny rosebush, embroidered with a peculiar monogram. Et voilà, he exclaimed softly, retrieving the delicate fabric. It was undeniably familiar, and as he raised it to the lantern light, he discerned the embroidered initials, a distinct marker of Lady Agnes. But how did it come to be here? Anna inquired, mouth agape as they all processed this new lead. This handkerchief screams of desperation, revealing not just attachment, but perhaps a serious discord. Lady Agnes, in her fervent covert dealings. Oh, but there's more. Poirot's mind raced as the synchronicity of the clues took hold. A will that many would want to suppress. But what about Lady Cordelia? Jonathan interjected, worry embossed across his features. She must have learned something, been aware of something deeply troubling. Poirot's posture stiffened. Ah, yes. And if she had uncovered this truth, if it reached too far into the family's secrets, it might be enough motive for fear, or worse. Someone wanted to silence her. As the words hung in the air, a chill swept through the garden. The wind carried an unvoiced threat, an unrelenting urgency that seeped through the walls of the manor, binding every word into a tapestry of intertwined fates. Let us return, mes amis. There are other truths waiting in Thornhill Manor, Poirot stated, determination returning. They would piece together the fractured legacy before the storm cast its final disastrous shadow. The resolution was within reach, but as he turned to guide them back, his gaze fell upon a stone plaque at the garden's edge, its message unyieldingly clear. Thus lies buried the past. Awaken it, you shall, only at a price. Poirot's stomach twisted at these foreboding words, enhanced by the crack of thunder and the winds of fate. Each member of their party stepped closer, shadows mingling as the storm raged on into the night, teetering on the brink of an unveiling. They had merely begun to scratch the surface of the buried secrets waiting to be unearthed. The game had truly taken a sinister turn. With newfound urgency, Poirot felt the roots of their inquiry digging deeper as the garden's whispers fused with the daunting echoes of the manor's past. One truth beckoned, but would they have the courage to face whatever lay beneath the surface? Chapter 8. The Return of the Beloved. The storm, unrelenting in its fury, slammed against the shutters of Thornhill Manor like a restless spirit seeking entry. Inside the library, Hercule Poirot stood in contemplative silence, the flickering lantern casting shadows that danced sinisterly across the walls. The chilling echoes of their recent discoveries thrummed in his mind, the silken handkerchief, the furtive whispers resonating within the garden's depths, and the implications they bore. Just as the weight of despair hung heavy in the room, a sudden crash echoed through the manor, startling the detective and his companions. "Mon Dieu!" Poirot exclaimed, straightening with urgency. It bore the tone of an intruder's arrival or a moment of reckoning. Moments later, the door swung open, and through the sheets of rain stepped a figure, drenched and shaking, framed against the tempestuous backdrop. A woman, her dark hair plastered to her face, her eyes wide with a blend of fear and jubilant disbelief. It was Cordelia. "Lady Cordelia," Jonathan gasped, stepping forward, astonishment washing over his usually composed demeanor. Anna, stunned into silence, clutched her collar. "Forgive my abrupt arrival," Cordelia gasped, breathless, words tumbling over one another as she hastily stepped into the warm room. "I had to come. I must explain everything." Poirot's mind raced as he scrutinized the girl who once walked this manor with a quiet grace, now a mere ghost of herself, soaked through with desperation. "Your absence was a chilling spectre, Lady Cordelia. Please, we must unravel your tale." With no more than a nod, Cordelia began recounting her tale. "I was not merely lost, but hidden away," she confessed, drawing nearer to the feeble light, her eyes shining with an inner flame. "There are truths that this family has buried deeper than the graves of our ancestors. The detective listened intently, heart pulsating with the rhythm of a developing plot, as she detailed her escape from a distant relative's villainous grip, a wicked cousin who sought control over the estate. Sir Edgar, a name Jonathan winced at the mention of. He has been feeding our family's fears, threatening those who believe I am a ghost. But I'm here, and I know secrets that could shift the very foundations of Thornhill. Poirot nodded slowly, piecing together the scattered fragments of their investigation. And what is this secret you speak of? What knowledge do you possess that would endanger you so? I found a document, a will, Cordelia replied, her voice trembling with significance. It was hidden among the family's possessions. The will names me as the rightful heir, but also connects our family to certain transactions that are, quite frankly, disturbing. Disturbing? Poirot's brow furrowed further, sensing an intricate tapestry unfolding. What specific matters trouble you, my lady? It speaks of a betrayal, of arrangements outside of our family, Cordelia said, her voice barely above a whisper. Connections with unscrupulous men who have sullied our name and traded more than just property. There are fortunes at stake, and I fear for my life. Before Poirot could delve more into her narrative, a sudden burst of energy illuminated the room. Jonathan now interjected, his face pale but determined. But why return now, Cordelia? With the storm raging, the estate sits at the peril of danger. What made you risk it all when those who threaten you are still loose? Because, she said, her eyes locking onto Poirot's with fervent intensity, while I was away, I overheard conversations from Sir Edgar's co-conspirators. They were careless, thinking me dead. They plotted to ensure I remained lost forever. Poirot caught a hint of desperation threading through her words and reached deeper into his instinctive deductions. So you suspected not only betrayal within your family, but that someone beneath their own roof feels threatened by your return. A stark revelation indeed. As Cordelia nodded, her resolve flashing with courage, Poirot's attention caught something unusual. An emerald pendant she wore around her neck flickered under the lantern light. The exact shade seemed eerily familiar, a flash of recognition sparking suspicion. That pendant, he said, narrowing his eyes. It has a connection, does it not? To Lady Agnes, perhaps? Yes, it was given to me by her, Cordelia admitted, her voice dropping again. But I had no idea of its true significance until I found references to it in the will. A wind howled outside, blowing against the manor's solid walls, mirroring the growing tension within. Poirot recast his thoughts. If the pendant held secrets, perhaps even identities, there was considerable merit to investigate further. Does this document you speak of detail more than mere claims of inheritance? Cordelia shook her head, growing faint. My escape was hasty. I only grasped fragments. But I remember names of those who opposed my rightful claim. And one was marked, she said, her voice softening with dread. Gently. Mr. Gently, the caretaker, stood among them again, heaving a breath. He had been standing by the door, panic and confusion spilling from his hazel eyes that seemed to reflect all the shaming secrets of his past. Madame, you mustn't bring shame upon this family, he urged, his voice low yet anxious. A price must be paid, Poirot echoed, his sharp mind calculating the weight of implications echoed by Gently's haste. A price for uncovering truths long buried. Gently shifted on his feet, his eyes darting between Poirot and Cordelia. I never wished to cause harm. I merely wanted to protect. Protect? Poirot interjected, cornering him with his penetrating gaze. or perhaps to conceal your own misgivings. But that's not, gently stammered, panic seizing him. Before another sentiment could escape, the window shattered, rain crashing in like a vengeful spirit unleashed. The chaos thickened as shadows danced closer, voices unheard amidst the cacophony. Poirot's voice broke through the storm, as solid as ever. No more running. We have a choice. Seek out the truth here and now, or bury it deep once more. Do you wish to confront the past, my lady? He asked, turning back to Cordelia, who stood at the precipice of revelation. Yes, she responded, clutching the document closely, but I fear what it may awaken. As thunder erupted overhead, a name echoed through Poirot's mind. Sir Edgar, whose threads of deceit intertwined darkest desires, loomed silently as the storm raged on. Their chances slipped like sand. The future seemed precarious. Simultaneously, with a shuddering breath, Cordelia unveiled the document. The crumpled edges spoke tales of forgotten histories and buried legacies. She handed it cautiously to Poirot. Within that parchment lay a world about to change. Let us discover which ghosts still linger in the darkness, Poirot declared, meeting the gaze of each assembled soul, the weight of their fates intertwined under storm-tattered skies. A moment hung in the air, charged with unspeakable tension, before Poirot unrolled the document, and for the first time, the truth took form. The walls pressed around them, shadows thickening with secrets. Their night had only just begun. Promises of treachery lying beneath the surface, and the price yet to be paid, one they could scarcely conceive. Each heartbeat reverberated. The game had turned. The storm raged on, uncontrolled and enigmatic, just as their quest for truth had become. Chapter 9. The Final Trap. The storm continued to rage outside, the angry winds howling like a pack of wolves as Hercule Poirot adjusted his bow tie in the grand dining room of Thornhill Manor. Flickering candles flickered against the rain-drenched windows, casting shadows that twisted and turned, echoing the tension that gripped the room. The table was set elegantly, the gleam of silverware and crystal reflecting muted light, but the air was pregnant with unspoken words and hidden resentments. Poirot stood at the head of the table, his gaze sharp as he observed his assembled companions. Lady Cordelia, a damp spectre of vulnerability. Mr. Gently, his unease palpable, and Jonathan, whose anxious demeanor suggested he was caught between loyalty and fear. It was an uneasy alliance, yet it was this very tension that Poirot intended to exploit. They were gathered for a dinner that promised more than mere sustenance. It would be a stage for revelations, a theater where truths long buried would rise from the depths. With a flick of his wrist, Poirot called for the servants to bring in the first course. The doors swung open, and as they entered bearing platters of steaming soup, he seized the moment to weave his web. "Mes amis," he began, his voice a compelling mixture of warmth and intensity. "Tonight, we shall not merely dine, but also explore the depths of our connections, both blood and betrayal." As he spoke, the clattering of dishes crescendoed, cooling the simmering silence. The family history of Thornhill is rich, some might say too rich, entwined with bitterness and ambition. This very night may serve as a revelatory supper, as we enchant the past from its slumber. Poirot glanced pointedly toward Lady Cordelia, noticing her fingers tremble slightly as she lifted her spoon. "Is it not fascinating," he continued, "how the past can bind us, yet threaten us in equal measures?" He peered at each attendee. "I urge you to reflect upon what you've hidden, dear friends, for as unseasonable storms pass, so can we shed light on our long-concealed shadows. The dinner progressed, and Poirot's carefully orchestrated plan unfurled adeptly. He engaged Cordelia in conversation, offering her opportunities to share without leading her. "You were away for so long, my lady. How does it feel to return, knowing the truths that lie within these walls?" The question hung, laden with implication. Cordelia's gaze flickered between her companions, her voice barely more than a whisper. "I feared the truth more than darkness itself. Secrets can suffocate." She raised her head a fraction, meeting Poirot's keen eyes. "But some secrets must see the light." With a nod, Poirot encouraged her. The atmosphere sharpened as he moved deftly through the conversation, steering attention where he sought to create subtle friction. "And what of you, Mr. Gently?" He focused on their caretaker. "To oversee this estate is a noble task. Yet, do you not also carry burdens of your own?" Gently's brow furrowed as he shifted in his seat. "I only do what is asked of me," he stammered, and Poirot noted the tremor in his voice, a sign of anxiety. "But one must consider the past, a past filled with shame that I wish not to reveal." "Shame, indeed, can drive even the strongest of men to act with desperation," Poirot interrupted, his gaze piercing through Gently's facade. "Sometimes those we wish to protect end up paying the highest price." Jonathan shifted uncomfortably, clenching his fists against the table. "We are not here to discuss shame. We are here because of the truth." His voice trembled with mounting frustration. "Exactly, my friend," Poirot agreed, a mischievous smile crossing his face. "And how intriguing is the dance of secrets? Tell me, what weighs upon your mind?" "Asking to unearth our family's secrets is an invitation to chaos," Jonathan snapped, his pulse quickening. "Do we not risk everything with this charade?" Poirot observed the young man closely, noting the flicker of fear in his eyes. "Perhaps the risk is precisely the point," he mused aloud. "It is within chaos that the innocent often reveal their truths. A slip of the tongue, perhaps, answers what the heart desires to deny." As they moved on to the main course, a rich beef bourguignon, Poirot continued weaving his narrative, interlacing their past relationships with deft observations, pushing their buttons with every remark. The room's atmosphere thickened with a reluctant acknowledgement that their fates were woven together through shared fears and aspirations. Old grievances simmered, waiting for the right spark to ignite. Moments later, a sudden clap of thunder rattled the manor, momentarily breaking the tension. With a flick of Poirot's hand, the conversation quieted, and he seized the opportunity. "Ah, but we are not without our storms, are we? Each of us carries that which is unsaid. Ah, Cordelia, if the tables were turned, what would be the first truth you would wish to illuminate tonight?" Cordelia hesitated, glancing at the others. "Perhaps I would confront Sir Edgar's treachery, the illicit dealings hidden beneath the guise of family loyalty." A heavy silence fell over the table. The weight of her words hung palpably, a thread of anxiety weaving among them, tightening. Poirot seized the moment. "And what of you, Gently? You appeared visibly shaken by that very name." "I swear to you, I knew nothing. I never wished to harm her." Gently's voice was desperate, flooding with an uncharacteristic urgency. Poirot's eyes gleamed. He had struck gold. "Ah, but the truth can be a mercenary," Poirot murmured, making the most of the burst of emotion. "Old ties can bind or break when confronted. Would you reveal the depths of your loyalty, Mr. Gently?" "Enough," Jonathan interrupted, slamming his fist down against the polished table. "This is madness. There are things that should remain buried." But does that include murder, my dear Jonathan? Poirot challenged, his voice cool, yet edged in the electric suspense of revelation. For if blood runs within our veins, it compels certain truths to rise. But is that blood worth the shedding? In a moment of fraught attention, as Gently looked to Jonathan for support, Cordelia's eyes flashed with surprise, suddenly emboldened. Why are you so afraid? Do you fear the return of my unveiling? The gathering storm outside echoed the chaos within. Just then, Poirot felt the pulse of the room sharpen. Speak, Gently, he demanded, his tone firm yet fluid. What secrets tether you, and whose dead weight must we cast off? Gently opened his mouth, the confession on the tip of his tongue, but before the words could form, the lights flickered violently, plunging the room into darkness. The only sounds were the rain hammering against the windows and the frantic beating of hearts around the table. In the dim glow that returned, shadows danced wildly, and Poirot felt a surge of urgency. Then, in that charged silence, as if conjured by fate, a heavy object thudded against the floor, just behind Gently. All eyes turned to a dark corner of the room. Poirot's heart raced as he felt an electric current surge through him. Whatever had fallen, it could very well hold the key to unraveling the layers of deception lying beneath. With a slow, deliberate motion, Poirot stepped around the table, his mind racing through every implication surrounding them. He reached toward the ground, where a gleaming object lay partially hidden in the shadows, an ornate, blood-stained dagger. Ah, mon Dieu, Poirot murmured. The stakes have risen indeed. The answers we seek lie within the sharp edges of a past we have yet to confront. Every gaze turned upon Gently, a silent accusation that encased the room. Poirot's sharp deduction echoed in the tense silence as he prepared to unveil the truths too dangerous to remain buried. The sanguine tang of revelation hung thick in the air, now thick with a more sinister intent. And thus, the trap was set. Who would dare reveal themselves while buried motives threatened all they sought to protect? The night had only just begun, darkness looming as tightly as the storm outside. The final act awaited its tragic reveal. Chapter 10. The mask falls away. The air crackled with an intensity that mirrored the violent storm outside, and as Hercule Poirot knelt to pick up the blood-stained dagger, he felt as though the weight of history pressed down upon him. Ah, mes amis, he declared, rising with the object now glinting ominously in his hand. What a curious turn we have taken. A dagger, enshrined in shadow, amidst revelations unsaid. The guests around the table exchanged glances, filled with fear, anger, and confusion. The flickering candlelight casting wild shadows that danced like spectres on the walls. Lady Cordelia's breath hitched as she studied the dagger, fear washing over her. What does this mean, Poirot? Is it a relic of Sir Edgar's dark dealings? Perhaps more than that, madame, Poirot replied, his French accent lending gravity to his words. This dagger is the key, a key that unlocks and binds the very fates of this gathering. Allow me to remind you, this evening was meant for unveiling, and now we are thrust into the spotlight. Mr. Gently shifted uncomfortably in his seat, beads of sweat forming on his brow, while Jonathan clenched his fists, eyes darting between Cordelia and the dagger. We are not savages, he interjected, attempting to reclaim control of the spiraling conversation. These games must cease. The truth should not bear the weight of violence. But tell me, my young friend, Poirot challenged, positioning himself closer to Jonathan, what if truth and violence are inextricably linked in this web. What if this dagger was once concealed to prevent a revelation more horrid than anticipated? As anticipation crackled between those seated, an unsettling silence fell, each individual grappling with their own fears and secrets. The storm outside howled like an animal, and the room felt as though it was closing in. Poirot turned his attention back to Cordelia, whose vulnerable facade faltered. "My lady, what truths weigh upon your soul? A dagger such as this implies the urgency of your declaration." She began, her voice wavering. "I believed Edgar was someone who could forge a new path for our family. But his betrayals come at a cost I was too blind to see." Tears glimmered in her eyes as the storm outside raged, mirroring her emotional turmoil. "Yet your loyalty remains strong. Still, the question begs, at what price?" Poirot prodded delicately, watching her process the weight of his words. Suddenly, gently blurted, "She knows nothing of what lurks beneath the surface. Her innocence could shatter everything." His voice carried the tremors of desperation that echoed the pulsing fear around them. "It is better she remains unaware," Poirot observed gently, keenly, but the man's outburst solidified his suspicion. "Mr. Gently, it seems your fears are born of more than mere concern. Might there be a connection between you and Edgar's downfall? Could the shadows of trust form a more personal betrayal?" "You have no idea what you're suggesting." Jonathan stood abruptly, his voice rising over the storm, though his eyes betrayed a flicker of anxiety. "We are witnesses to a man's passing, and you toy with the ghosts of his legacy. You risk everything for the sake of a parlor game." But is it not precisely in times of silence and upheaval that we uncover remarkable truths?" Poirot countered. "This drama is no mere spectacle. It is the structure of the thorn's deceit, perhaps a fold in the very fabric of loyalty. I require but the slightest slip of a confession." A moment hung, taut with uncertainty, until Cordelia broke the silence, her voice steady. "If Edgar was guilty, if his death was more than just an unfortunate accident, would that render our secrets justified?" The air in the room thickened as her words hung heavy with implications. Gently's expression shifted, revealing a glimmer of panic flashing in his eyes, as if a door had been opened that should remain closed. "You cannot truly believe Edgar deserved it?" Poirot leaned forward, studying Gently's face. "Do you fear his reckoning, sir, or merely the consequences of your own schemes?" The gathering storm beat like a wild heart against the manor, yet within, the real tempest brewed with tension. "What if I tell you, mon cher, that motivation is often darker than we dare fathom?" Poirot's sharp gaze swept the room, absorbing every nuance. "Perhaps the dagger is a marker of something larger, a desire not merely for revenge, but for liberation from chains unseen, a desperate act cloaked in family loyalty." Waves of realization washed over Cordelia as she realized her belief in family loyalty had been a convenient veil for deeper treachery. "We fought to save our name, our heritage," she murmured, her eyes narrowing as an epiphany struck. "But if one is willing to cast aside loyalty, to betray even those they love—" Jonathan barked a laugh tinged with despair. "Lies abound on this wretched estate. We are merely pawns in a game far beyond our comprehension. The dagger proves it, a sign of arrogance more than honesty." Poirot regarded him carefully. Then shifting back to Gently, he cleared his throat, one brow arched. "A great many things can fall apart, Mr. Gently, but what must remain intact is the truth. don't you see? Gently's shoulders slumped, a defeat echoing in his voice. The dagger, the blood. Edgar was the one who tarnished our family name. His involvement with criminals, with the underground, I sought to protect. Protect, one might say, Poirot interjected, the gleam of excitement in his eyes. But from what? An undiscovered legacy of your own? As Gently's lips pressed together, punctuated by a flinch, Poirot took the reins of tension firmly. So meticulous, yet your facade falters. You are not merely Edgar's gatekeeper, you are part of a larger scheme, a conspiracy perhaps involving the illicit dealings. No, we do not twist without consequence. The air thickened with unease, and just as Gently opened his mouth, the lights flickered once again. Darkness engulfed the room, but for the briefest of moments before the candles flared back to life. Poirot's heart raced as he noticed something gleaming on the floor. Mon Dieu, look closely, he ordered as he stepped towards the corner where shadows pooled ominously. What more can we unveil? Is it another piece of evidence, or perhaps a reminder, a cue to unravel your ties to this sordid affair? Jonathan's posture stiffened suddenly, and he stepped back, revealing an old, small box tucked beneath his chair. "No, you mustn't," he exclaimed, growing pale as the secret pushed to the surface. All eyes focused on the box, and in that momentous pause, Poirot felt the unmistakable pulse of truth pushing through the deceptive shadows. Ah, my friends, for every mask we reveal, the true identity of this web grows clearer. The storm has merely begun. What say you? Will the darkness yield to the light? Because somewhere within that box lies a truth that cannot remain hidden any longer. Just as Poirot reached for it, the lights flickered again, blinding white this time, piercing the darkness with one brilliant moment before plunging them back into blackness, the tumult outside echoing the tumult within. Take heed. Poirot's voice roared above the chaos. For the revelations contained within, the secrets will shape our fate tonight, one way or another. I ask each of you, what will it take for you to face your guilt? But in that churning darkness, as the storm raged fiercely outside, they could hardly hear one another as the ground beneath their feet shifted precariously, unraveling as the night reached its fever pitch. In their midst lay a box, a dagger, and the encroaching shadows of their past, each delay whispering of terrible truths, desperate to emerge. With the storm as their backdrop, eerily echoing the cries of their silent confessions, the final mask would surely fall away, exposing the true face of betrayal before night turned to dawn. Chapter 11. The Truth, Buried in the Garden. Heavy rain lashed against the window panes of the manor, each drop a reminder of the chaos unfolding inside. The gusts of wind screamed like tortured souls, a haunting prelude to the revelations brewing within the faded grandeur of the Thorn estate. Hercule Poirot stood unyielding amidst the tumult, the dagger still clasped tightly in his hand, its bloodied blade bearing witness to the events now spiraling towards an inevitable climax. As the power flickered ominously yet again, Poirot's gaze darted toward the window, where shadows danced like phantoms through the sheets of rain. "Quickly, mes amis," he urged, "before the storm erases what remains of our resolve. We must seek the truth. The answer lies not only in this accursed dagger, but also beyond the walls that confine us." With the urgency igniting their spirits, the remaining guests surged toward the door, their desperation palpable beneath the flickering candlelight. Gently led the way, a conviction burning in his chest, while Cordelia's wearied eyes brimmed with the ambition to uncover her family's cursed history. The garden loomed dark and foreboding, the wild rain transforming it into a quagmire. The sweet scent of soaked earth filled the air, masking the quiet despair that lay buried beneath the soil. As they stepped outside, the wind whipped around them, and the faintest gleam of moonlight fought through the clouds, illuminating the chaos in the foliage. Poirot sunk, his hands into his coat pockets as he surveyed the dark patchwork of flora and shadow, every instinct on high alert. You see, my friends, nature may conceal much, but it also reveals. Somewhere in this garden, the threads of our mystery tangle and await unearthing. An unsteady laugh broke from Jonathan as he brushed against the damp leaves, trying to contain the desperation creeping into his voice. And what could possibly be here? A hidden cellar, a grave. All that's left here is desolation, or perhaps answers to questions you do not yet comprehend. Poirot pressed, his eyes narrowing as he scrutinized their surroundings. Shall we split into pairs? Each corner of this estate must be scoured, for I sense we are close. The revelation of Edgar Thorne's fate dances just beyond reach. Reluctantly, the guests divided themselves, gently choosing to accompany Poirot, their breaths rasping in the clashing storm. The pair moved toward the overgrown hedge, where massive roots entwined like serpent tails beneath the gnarled trunk of an ancient tree. "Ah, ici!" Poirot exclaimed suddenly, elegance tinged with urgency as he knelt before a patch of muddy earth, fingers parting the damp foliage. "Look, do you see? Evidence buried, no doubt." With shaking hands, gently bent closer. At first, he saw only wet soil, but Poirot's persistent probing revealed a small, time-worn locket, half glimpsed from beneath the muck. "A locket?" he murmured, bafflement briefly replacing suspicion. "Not just any, my friend," Poirot corrected, his voice gravelly yet soft, "but one that connects us to our victim's legacy." Carefully, he lifted the locket, its silver surface glinting, despite the mosquitoes of raindrops that fell around them. He wiped it clean with his handkerchief, revealing an inscription, "For my dearest Edgar, forever bound." Gently blinked, confusion flickering like a candle in the wind. What does it mean? Who would keep something like this hidden? "Ah, but that is the question, n'est-ce pas?" Poirot replied, fastening his gaze firmly onto Gently. "A token of love, perhaps? Or a reminder of betrayal?" The bearer of this locket appears acutely aware of the connections between loyalty and treachery. As rain battered down, Gently shifted uncomfortably, his mind racing through the implications. It could have belonged to Lady Cordelia. Poirot's voice dropped to a whisper, reverberating the weight of years behind their words. "While she may be tormented by the past, it is you, Mr. Gently, who stands closest to the shadows flitting through this narrative. What is your true role in this tale?" Gently recoiled as though stung. His features tightened, and for a moment he became a statue of resentment, affixing Poirot with a hardened glare. "I've told you. I sought to protect this family, protect Cordelia, even if it meant carrying the guilt of their sins." A bolt of lightning illuminated the garden in a frenzy of stark brilliance, and Poirot examined him closely, his intuitive mind racing through the possibilities. "Ah, there it is, the hidden motive. Perhaps you were careful with your words, but the telltale flicker in your eyes suggests otherwise. What is it you have buried alongside your loyalty?" Gently's breath fell heavier now, the storm outside mirroring the tempest raging within him. "You can't accuse me of something I didn't do, Poirot. You have no idea what Edgar's affiliations might have led to. You think I intended for anyone to..." Silence! Poirot's command cut through the noise. What don't you want us to uncover, I wonder? The dagger is one piece of a larger puzzle. You, dear friend, are invisible threads, binding it all together. Focus. Tell me, what is it that lies behind that affliction? You held a key to Edgar's secrets, didn't you? Before Gently could respond, the lights flickered back on inside the manor, illuminating the room where the two had just departed. Poirot cast a furtive glance back toward the house, realizing they were racing against time, opportunity slipping like water through their fingers. We must delve deeper. It is time we unveil what has been obscured by the storm. Determined, the two men forged ahead, undeterred by the chaos resounding in their wake. As they rummaged through the sodden foliage, the storm at their back, Gently's resolve faltered for a moment. Something nagged at his conscience, a sliver of guilt emerging like the murky refrains of Edgar's past. Still searching, Poirot's instincts lead him further, edging closer to the heart of the garden riot. Stay close, Monsieur Gently. The truth we unearth may yet expose the very fabric of your loyalty. Then, with a sudden movement, Poirot's hand plunged into the muck, yielding another discovery. Not merely a clue, but the emblem of the illusion that had shrouded them all. It appears, Poirot stated with a gleam of triumph, that we may soon unravel the true enigma behind Edgar Thorne's demise and those tangled in his web. This final piece, a piece of incriminating evidence, may change everything. A hush fell, silence pregnant with possibility. As the rain continued to pour and the storm echoed loudly, the air was electric with tension, curiosity, and fear, all begging to know what awaited them beyond the next turn. The night teetered on the brink of revelation, the darkened garden whispering secrets and leading them ever closer to the truth. Would it shed light on the puppet master pulling the strings, or would it bury them deeper still once and for all? Chapter 12. The Confession. No one heard. The storm had subsided into a distant rumble, replaced by an ominous calm that smothered Thornhill Manor. The air inside felt thick, almost oppressive, as if the house itself held its breath, anticipating revelations that could shift the very foundation of its existence. Hercule Poirot stood, silhouetted in the flickering candlelight, the silver locket still cradled delicately in his palm, its inscription haunting his thoughts. For my dearest Edgar, forever bound. His mind raced through the layers of deceit and hidden affiliations that cloaked each guest still lingering in the manor's haunted rooms. "Where shall we go, Poirot?" Gently whispered beside him, his voice trembling, like the half-burned wax of the candles as he shifted awkwardly, discomfort palpable in his stance. What more could we hope to discover? "Ah, Monsieur Gently," Poirot replied, eyes gleaming with resolve. "In our search for truth, it is often beneath fragile surfaces, where emotions run deep, that we must tread. Tonight, we bear the unvarnished reality lurking in the shadows, and I believe the heart of our mystery lies with Lady Cordelia." He turned sharply on his heel, his gaze sweeping the room, settling finally on the bold-looking portrait of Edgar Thorne that hung like a sentinel over the proceedings. "I suggest we find her. She may be the key to unraveling the enigma surrounding Edgar's untimely demise." Without hesitation, they made their way through the creaky corridors, each step punctuated by the echoes of the manor's storied past. The air was cool, and the flames of the candles cast ghostly shadows upon the walls, animating the portraits and the relics of a bygone era. The two men soon found themselves outside Cordelia's bedroom, where the dim light spilled from the crack beneath her door. "Lady Cordelia?" Poirot called softly, his breath held in anticipation. The stillness of the manor enveloped them like a shroud, pressing forward a sense of urgency. As they waited, Gently's face reflected uncertainty. The worry etched across his brow, hardly lessened by the discovery of the locket. With hesitation, Poirot knocked on the elaborately carved door, the sound echoing ominously through the silence. "Cordelia, it is I, Hercule Poirot. We would speak with you." At first, there was no response, but tension thickened in the air as the seconds stretched into an eternity. Just as Gently was about to move away, feeling the weight of their failure pressing upon him, the door creaked reluctantly open. Lady Cordelia stood there, her silhouette framed in the soft glow of her chamber, the shadows accentuating the weariness in her eyes. "Poirot." "Gently," she greeted, her tone a whisper layered with fatigue. "What is it? Is it Edgar? Is it really true?" "Ah, my lady." Poirot stepped forward, his demeanor steady yet compassionate. "We have discovered certain pieces of evidence in the garden, primary among them this." He produced the locket, extending it toward her, the glimmering silver catching the light, a small beacon in a stormy sea of uncertainty. Cordelia's eyes widened as she saw the trinket, and her breath escaped in a gasp. "Where did you find it?" The tremor in her voice betrayed the facade of composure she wore so tightly. "Beneath the soil of the garden, entwined with the roots of the past," Poirot explained. "But more importantly, it is not merely a piece of jewelry. It is laden with mysteries and secrets. Much like you, Lady Cordelia." "I don't understand. I never wanted any of this," she stammered, pressing a hand against her mouth. "Edgar was troubled. His interests, they dragged all of us into darkness. I sought to shield all of them, to protect my family from the storms he conjured." "Alas," Poirot continued, his demeanor unwavering, "protection can sometimes wear the masks of deception. I must ask you, what truly lies behind your thus veil?" As the question hung heavy in the air, a storm of emotions churned within Cordelia. Edgar was not the man you think him to be. He became enamored with the wrong people, engaged in dealings that would haunt us all. We sought to leave it behind, to cover our tracks, but then everything spiraled out of control. "Tell us," Gently urged, his voice rising above the gloom. "What happened that night?" A weighty silence fell, and Cordelia's gaze shifted toward the window where the moonlight struggled to penetrate the darkened clouds. That night, Edgar had received a threat. He was to meet a man from whom he borrowed money to cover his debts, a dangerous man. There was tension. I warned him not to go. I should have stopped him. Instead, I let him leave. Let him walk into the darkness alone. "But you did not follow him, did you?" Poirot interjected gently. "Tell me. Why?" "He was adamant. He said he would take care of it. He always was so proud, so insistent on showing me he could handle his own affairs." Cordelia clutched the locket, her nails digging into its surface as revelation clawed at her. "I would have done anything to save him, but it was too late." Poirot watched her with keen interest, piecing together her confession with care. "And who was the man he met? Who had his life hanging in the balance?" I don't know. We never discussed names. I never wanted to know. But I saw them. The two men. I saw them." Her voice trembled as images from that night flooded her mind. "Ah, mon Dieu. See?" Poirot exclaimed softly, an epiphany sparking in his eyes. "You witnessed something, yet you shield your eyes. A betrayal must be unveiled, Cordelia. consider the darker alleys of your past. The truth we seek may well reside in the heart of family loyalties. Who among you had the most to gain? An agonizing moment of clarity settled over her. Perhaps Jonathan? He stood to gain by keeping Edgar under his thumb long enough to secure his own interests. This shadow must be scrutinized further. But listen, Poirot cautioned. The truth does not reside solely with betrayal. Your heart bears burdens too, secrets of your own. Just then, a sound echoed in the hall, a soft but firm knock on another door, one that led to the study where secrets could drown or emerge, where the weight of truth bore down heavily. Poirot exchanged a knowing glance with Gently, sensing impending revelations. "Stay here," he instructed Cordelia urgently. "We must see who it is." Together with Gently, they moved toward the study, where the oak door stood ajar, shadows flickering and blending in the dim light. As the two entered, they found Jonathan fidgeting nervously, his back turned to the entryway. What are you doing here?" Jonathan stammered, eyes wild as they met Poirot's assuring gaze. I have nothing to say." But Poirot's unwavering command snapped the anxious air. "Ah, but you may have all to say, monsieur. Your words could reshape this narrative. But first, we require truth. The confession no one heard. Are you prepared to deliver it?" The walls seemed to lean in closer, silence straining for answers as Jonathan shook, every feature radiating a torrent of conflicting emotions. The night hung heavy with expectation. The storm may have calmed outside, but inside the tension brewed for inevitable explosions of silence and truth. And as whispers floated through that shadowy space, one thing became certain. Revelation was finally at hand. What secrets would spill under the weight of guilt? What confessions lingered just beyond the fragile threshold of his lips? Would the darkness of their hearts finally yield? Just then, a loud crash from outside shattered the stillness, a reminder of the storm that still raged, echoing the tempest of secrets desperate to be unveiled before the first light of dawn. In that suspenseful moment, time itself seemed to halt, awaiting a resolution that would change everything.